Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to another video with Swaggle Haas. And we got ourselves a very special video here today. Obviously, as you can see, I am somewhere else. I've never been before. Welcome to Swaggle Haas's other side of his room. Usually you guys are facing that way. Today, we're facing this way. And this way is actually going to be Swaggle Haas's writing board. This is a board that I use a lot for writing when I'm doing my work outside of the YouTube channel. Got a lot of ideas on here. And I thought that this would be an appropriate video to do to utilize this writing board to field a question that I get all of the time. All of the time I get this question on Instagram, sometimes on YouTube comments. And the question I'm always asked is, hey Swaggle Haas, I got $1,000. I got $1,000 to invest in a comic book. What book should I buy? And here's the honest answer. The honest answer is obviously you should buy Darkhawk #1. No, I'm just kidding. The honest answer is you gotta just buy what you like. You know, you gotta buy what you like. And the reality is there is no correct answer. There is no right, I got $1,000, this book is going to the moon. There is no answer for that. But I realized, like in going to therapy, when you're messed up and you're talking to the therapist, you want them to just give you the answers, even though that's not really how it works. You have to like kind of do your own soul searching, and then eventually you unlock the answer for yourself. But I realized that that's not satisfying for a lot of people out there who ask me this question. They want the answer. They want to know which book that they should buy. So in this video, I'm going to try to give them an answer that's not really an answer, but essentially it's going to be my answer. So I got this all set up, obviously, guys, because like, comment, subscribe. That would be really, really nice. This is going to be a little bit of a long video because I've never done this before. I've never done the whiteboard thing before. I'm just kind of rambling. So hopefully you guys enjoy this type of thing. Hopefully we have some fun here today. And hopefully you guys agree with my overall philosophy on what I'm going to talk about. So, maybe grab some bags and boards and listen to me speak. Okay, so let's talk about this person, this hypothetical person who is reaching out to Swaggle Haas. And this person, typically, this is the type of person who effectively we're going to call Key Collector Kevin. All right, Key Collector Kevin is a new comic book collector. Key Collector Kevin is a new comic book collector. He wants to go to the moon. This guy wants to go to the moon. He's super, super excited about it. He's got his eye on the prize. He invests in crypto. He wants his books to go up in value. He wants his comic book portfolio to go to the moon. Going to the moon, guys. Going to the moon right there. So for Key Collector Kevin, he is the type of person who doesn't usually have the patience, right? Doesn't usually have the patience to wait for the book's natural value to rise up with the rate of inflation. So Key Collector Kevin is looking to be on a what we'll call a 3-year window, right? We're on a 3-year window for Key Collector Kevin. Honestly, Key Collector Kevin would love to be on a 1-year window, but the reality is you can't be on a 1-year window, okay? You can't be on a 1-year window, especially in this current economy, especially with what's going on right now, with all the prices correcting and the state of the world and all that stuff. We can't really be on a 1-year window. That's just not going to be too helpful. We gotta force ourselves to focus on 3 years, 3 years ahead of ourselves. So, $1,000, 3-year window. Swaggle Haas, what comics should I buy? All right. Well, I basically narrowed it down to 5 potential comic book directions you can go in. Obviously, you got $1,000, so it's a decent amount of money. We're talking about 4 figures. There's a lot of books that you can definitely buy for $1,000. A lot of nice things you can buy. Maybe you can't afford the all-time blue chips, but you still have a lot of options. So let's talk about the 5 options for Key Collector Kevin here. All right. The first option that Key Collector Kevin could do is pick up a Tales of the Betty yellow cover. Now, Tales of the Betty yellow cover, let's talk about this book a little bit. Tales of the Betty yellow cover it's an old book, okay? It's your grandpa's book. I've never heard of it. You've never heard of it. The person working at your LCS has never heard of it. Your friends never heard of it. Other comic book collectors have never heard of it. But the person that has heard about it is two people, which is Golden Age Guru and Ryan over at Automatic Comics. Those are the two people that are fans of the Tales of the Betty Yellowcover comic book. Now, you can definitely make a play on that book, but let us talk about the other four options you have before we decide, using our decision matrix, how we want to go about spending our $1,000. The second book that Key Collector Kevin can look at is Stan's Has-Beens. Stan's Has-Beens is a totally viable option for Kevin to pick up on. You know, let's talk about Stan's Has-Beens for a little bit. Stan's Has-Beens, they've been in movies. They've been in cartoons. They've been in video games. People generally know about Stan's Has-Beens. Generally speaking, they know about Stan's Has-Beens. But problem with Stan's Has-Beens is that they're has-beens, right? And Kevin is on a 3-year window, right? So we want to go to the moon with Kevin on a 3-year window, and we got has-beens right here. All right, so that's definitely a factor. All right, let's talk about options number 3. Option number 3. Kevin can pick up some 20-cent monsters. 20-cent monsters. Pretty cool books. Pretty cool books, 20-cent monsters. Now here's the thing about 20-cent monsters. Let's talk about 20-cent monsters for a little bit. 20-cent monsters, your friends heard about them. People who are on the older side of the spectrum have heard about them. People on the younger side of the spectrum have heard about them. They've been in some video games. They've been in some movies before. And there's a lot of potential for them to continue to be in movies in the future. So, kind of exciting. 20-cent monsters. Okay. Pretty good option. All right, let's talk about our remaining 2 options. Option number 4, Kevin can pick up Captain Copper. Captain Copper. You've heard about Captain Copper. I've heard about Captain Copper. When I was growing up, I loved Jim Lee drawing Captain Copper. Captain Copper had cartoons that blew me away. Captain Copper has been in all sorts of video games on Super Nintendo and Genesis. I have so much nostalgia for Captain Copper. Everybody loves Captain Copper, right? So Captain Copper is a really cool option that appeals to a lot of people out there in the market, especially Kevin. All right, and the last option that Kevin has for himself to pick up a book on a $1,000 budget is he can pick up Superhero 2.0. Superhero 2.0. Well, let's talk about Superhero 2.0. Superhero 2.0 is the future. Superhero 2.0 is the next best thing. No, not the next best thing. Superhero 2.0 is the future flagship character of all of comic books. Superhero 2.0 is really exciting. Okay? Really exciting prospect for Kevin. All right, so those are Kevin's 5 options, right? We have Tales of the Betty Yellowcover, Stan's Has-Beens, 20-Cent Monsters, Captain Copper, and Superhero 2.0. All right, let's talk about some of the potential factors that weigh into what Kevin is thinking about when he's thinking about these 5 books. And really the thing that we have to always highlight, which of course you guys are smart, I know you guys are smart, and look, I'm not going to pretend like I'm the economist in the room. I'm just some guy who unironically would spend all his money on this character right here. So this is not financial advice. This is just hypothetical entertainment. But every factor, right? We've all heard it. Economy 101. Everything has to do with supply and demand. So all of these things are going to weigh in to the idea of supply and demand, and that's going to weigh in on if we're going to the moon on our 3-year plan. So first things first, we got to talk about the grades. The grades that our $1,000 budget is going to buy for ourselves, right? So if we want, roughly speaking, to get a Tales of the Betty Yellowcover for $1,000, we've done some research. We've identified what we think is a cool Tales of the Betty cover book. But the reality is our options are not that great. there's not that many options. So we're kind of stuck with focusing on maybe a 1.0 to a 2.0. Cover might be detached. Staples are surely detached. Pages might be missing. For our $1,000 budget, yeah, we can afford a Tales of Betty Yellow cover, but we're probably going to have to get a 1 to 2.0 grade. It is what it is, but that's our options. All right. If we decide to pick up Stan's Has-Beens, depending, we have some options. Stan's Has-Beens might be able to get us a 3.0 to a 5.0, depending on what Stan's Has-Beens book we're specifically looking at. There's definitely some different options. Maybe, if we're being really crafty, we can even find higher than a 5.0. But generally speaking, we're thinking we're going to be in that range. 20-cent monsters, not so different from Stan's Has-Beens, although the high end is a little higher, right? So we can probably afford a 3.0. We can also maybe get up to a 6.5, maybe even a 7.5, depending on the 20-cent monster that we're looking at. So a lot of potential here, somewhat similar, but some potential, maybe a little higher grade on the 20-cent monster. Captain Copper, we have a lot of options. We have a lot of options with Captain Copper. We got 9.2s to 9.8s. Captain Copper, Captain Copper was at an age where everybody was bagging and boarding. So we have a lot of high grade options to pick for Captain Carter. And then last but not least, Superhero 2.0. We're only looking at 9.6s and 9.8s. Sometimes, even at 9.8, we can go 9.8 times 2 on our $1,000 budget. We may want to pick up 2 9.8s for our $1,000 budget with Superhero 2.0. So that's really, really exciting. All right. That's the factor. Those are the grades. Those are our options. Let's talk about the census now. Because as I started our conversation here, remember, everything is a supply and demand factor, right? So we got to talk about the supply here. We're trying to go to the moon. We're trying to be on a 3-year schedule. We got to talk about what is the supply for these books. Now, generally speaking, we got to think about what are the general, history of these books in terms of their supply. Things might be a little bit different, but we can kind of get a general ballpark of what the supplies are for these things. So, Tales of the Betty Yellow cover. Well, Tales of the Betty Yellow cover is definitely a book that is not easy to find. There are not many Tales of the Betty Yellow cover out there in the wild, especially out there in the wild. I mean, you might have to go to certain dealers to find a copy of Tales of the Betty Yellow cover. So when we're really thinking about it, depending on what type of book we're looking for, we're probably in that 500 census range, right? We got our grades, we got our census. So there's only about 500 copies of Tales of the Betty Yellow cover. So when we're talking about being able to hold our floor value for a certain comic book because of the limited supply, that's a really nice factor for picking up a book like Tales of the Betty Yellow cover. That gives me a lot of confidence that if I'm going to spend $1,000 to buy a book right here for that amount of money, and there's only 500 out there, do I think that there's going to be 499 other people that will always want my book? Probably. So I feel pretty safe about spending my money on that census count. Now, Stan's Has-Beens, 3.0 to 5.0, a lot of the Stan's Has-Been books, higher census count than the Tales of Betty Yellow cover, but not too many. So we're talking about anywhere between 2 to 5K. 2 to 5K, I think, depending on what Stan's Has-Beens there are. Now, there could be a lot of other raw copies that are not graded, but generally speaking, 2 to 5K, I think, is where we're going to be with Stan's Has-Beens. 20-cent monsters, this is where the numbers start to shoot up a little bit, right? 20-cent monsters, numbers start to shoot up. We're looking at anywhere from 7 to 10K. So all of a sudden, we see that the census is 7 to 10K. And although we can get a nice little higher grade for ourselves, maybe at the 6.0 range, we got to think to ourselves, is 20-cent monster going to be 3 times as popular as Stan's Has-Been? We got to think about that. We got to take that into consideration, because if we want our $1,000 to maintain its floor value, and we know that there's 7 to 10K copies out there, we have to think to ourselves, is there going to be, 6,000 or 5,000 more people who want our 20-cent monster book than, say, if we were going to get the Stan's Has-Been book. So we got to think about that. We got to take that into consideration. Now, Captain Copper is a really popular character. Captain Copper is a really popular character, so much so that when they made Captain Copper's book, they made a lot of them. They made 25 to 40K copies of Captain Copper Age's book. And this is tough. This is a tough number to beat because here's the thing. Like I mentioned, Captain Copper is super popular. Everybody loves Captain Copper. Who wouldn't want a Captain Copper book in a 9.8 grade? Everybody would want that. But do 40,000 people want it? Do 40,000 people want this book more than the 7,000 people that want the 20-cent monsters, more than the 2,000 people that want the Stan's Has-Beens? Maybe. But that is a factor we're going to have to think about when we're thinking about our $1,000 and we're trying to keep the floor value with our supply side of the equation. All right, last but not least, we have Superhero 2.0. Superhero 2.0. Now, Superhero 2.0 is interesting. They didn't print as many as Captain Copper for Superhero 2.0, but there are still a lot out there in the market, and there's probably a lot more that have yet to be graded. So let's talk about Captain Copper being, a Superhero 2.0 being a, we're going to call it 17 to 30K census. 17 to 30K census. So again, 17 to 30K, quite a lot higher than 7, 2, and 500. But Superhero 2.0 is the future, right? Superhero 2.0 is going to be the flagship character of Marvel. So will 20,000 more people want to own Superhero 2.0's book? It's possible. It's possible. All right. Those are the grades. Those are the census. We're getting a little bit closer to our understanding of what book we want to purchase for $1,000 on our 3-year plan where we go to the moon. Now we got to talk about risk. Okay, risk, which I'm going to sum up as historical performance. Historical performance. Now, there's no way to really tell what the risk would be. All we can really do is determine what the history of the books have done in the market so far as the data can tell us, and what the book's census count, how that might influence the risk overall. And let me just tell you this right here. Tales of the Betty Yellow cover. If I'm spending $1,000 on this book, that is fair market value $1,000, and I'm thinking about the risk, granted, there's always going to be risk. I'm going to put this risk at an A. Meaning A is a pretty good grade. We're talking about the letter grade scale here. And A, to me, means fairly low risk. I'm not too concerned spending my money on this thing with 500 copies out there at $1,000. Do I think that, in 3 years' time, I'm going to be able to get that same $1,000? Yeah, I'm pretty sure, because over the history of Tales of the Betty Yellow cover, generally speaking, this book has always gone up in value. So I'm not too worried about that. Stan's Has-Been. Let's talk about this risk right here. Stan's Has-Beens, obviously, legendary characters. When I think about their risk, knowing that the census is 2 to 5K, not too bad. $1,000, I think generally speaking, it's okay. There's always going to be a certain amount of people that want this book. I'm going to say this is also an A, but let's give it an A-, right? A little bit riskier than Tales of the Betty Yellow cover. Now we go to 20-cent monsters. Here's where the census starts to go up, right? We're 7 to 10K here. Maybe in some instances, we might even be pushing 15K, all right? I kept it pretty conservative with our 7 to 10K window, but we could be at 15K in certain situations. So risk factor for this one, I'm giving this one a B rating. This is a B rating for the risk factor, simply due to the fact that 20-cent monsters are very, very popular, but there's a decent amount of copies out there. And on top of that, I think that a lot of people are thinking to themselves that they might have that moonshot factor, right, for this 20-cent monster. Next up, Captain Copper Age. Captain Copper Age, risk factor, $1,000. There's a lot of popularity out there for Captain Copper Age. Definitely a lot of wait, Captain Copper, not Copper Age, right? You guys know what I'm talking about. A lot of risk factor out there. I'm going to give Captain Copper risk factor a C+, right? I like Captain Copper. There will always be demand for Captain Copper, but the supply side is going to really push down that demand. It's going to always push down that demand because there's just so much supply. They have to be so popular, and they are, but they have to be so popular. Superhero 2.0, risk factor here. I'm going to give this one a C-. This one, to me, even though there are less copies than Captain Copper Age, Captain Copper, Superhero 2.0 is inherently risky because of the fact that we have to assume that Superhero 2.0 can even get to Captain Copper's level. I mean, we think that they can get to Captain Copper's level. I mean, after all, they're the 2.0 version. But history would suggest that they're not at Captain Copper's level yet. They could be, but they're not there yet. So there is inherently more risk with Superhero 2.0. All right. Finishing out here, guys, I know this is a little bit of a long video, but if you're still with me, I hope you guys are enjoying this thing. Hope we're learning a little bit. You know, just trying to keep it fun here, doing this whiteboard thing. All right, let's move on now to the last couple sections here. We got popularity. Popularity, right? Popularity. That I was kind of talking about it here with Superhero 2.0 when we're talking about intrinsic popularity, right? In the history of this comic book, are these characters popular? Well, let's quickly give it a value grade across the board here. Now, Tales of the Betty Yellow cover. Here's where Tales of the Betty Yellow cover is starting to show a little bit of a factor of how you may not want to get this book, because in terms of popularity, the demand side for Tales of the Betty Yellow cover for this character, I'm going to give popularity on this one a C. Because here's the reality. Like I mentioned, the only two people that know about Tales of the Betty Yellow cover is Golden Age Guru and Ryan from Automatic Comic Books. So unless you can sell to those two guys, there's not going to be a lot of people demanding this book. Not necessarily. I know there's going to be people demanding this book. Okay, guys, I know. You get my point. Stan's has been popularity. This is A. This is an A rating right here. Stan's has-beens, these guys are pretty popular. They've been in movies, and a lot of people really, really enjoyed their popularity. 20-cent monsters, these guys are also very popular, but not quite as popular as Stan's has-beens. They've been around long enough to showcase that they are desired in the market. Captain Copper. Captain Copper is also very popular. Captain Copper is also very popular. Everybody knows who Captain Copper is, like I mentioned, even more so than 20-cent monsters. If you go onto the street and ask Normie McNormieson if they've ever heard of Captain Copper, they're going to tell you, yes, they have. If you ask them about 20-cent monster, they're going to be like, who? Maybe. I think so. If you ask them about Stan's has-beens, they're going to be like, yes, I have. Superhero 2.0, popularity, we're going to go B. There's a lot of people out there that love Superhero 2.0. A lot of collectors love Superhero 2.0. But there's a lot of Golden Age gurus and Ryan over at Automatic Comics that is not a fan of Superhero 2.0, okay? So we have to remember that Superhero 2.0, although they may be popular, there's a lot of people even in this sector of comic book collecting that don't like Superhero 2.0. And on top of that, some of the normies you ask they're out there in the market, when they see that Superhero 2.0 is getting a new Disney Plus show, they're like, who the hell is that? So I'm going to give them a B. I could have been giving them a C, but at least they're in culture, unlike Betty here. Speaking of culture, we got to go to the last culture. Now, this is very important. What are we talking about when we say culture here? Culture is what factors are going to lead to increasing the demand side of our supply and demand equation here, right? What factors in the market, in culture, in pop culture, are going to lead us to have demand for these particular characters? Movies, video games, cartoons, pajama pants, etc., etc. So, are there going to be cultural things in the next 3 years that could potentially increase the demand for our 5 potential options? Well, let's take a look. Tales of the Betty Yellow cover. giving it a D. Okay, and the letter grades, Tales of the Red Yellow Cover. Is there going to be anything in culture that's going to increase our demand for this book right here? Probably not. Probably not. After all, this is your grandpa's entertainment, and those Hollywood execs that are making decisions, they ain't greenlighting grandpa's entertainment, okay? Let me just tell you that right now, as someone who works in the filmmaking industry and what people are chasing, what scripts are being asked for, nobody's asking for Tales of the Betty Yellow Cover, okay? So, cultural aspects to increase demand for this book, I'm giving it the D rating. Stan's Has-Beens, cultural aspects to increase demand. Well, here we are. This is an interesting thing. Although Stan's Has-Beens have been very, very popular throughout these last 10 years or so, what factors in culture is going to increase the demand for these characters? Well, nostalgia bait, perhaps a return appearance, but if we're thinking about movie studios trying to build up the next generation, I'm not really sure outside of nostalgia bait that we're going to really be utilizing a lot of Stan's Has-Beens, at least in this 3-year window. That's the important takeaway, right? We're trying to go to the moon. We don't have patience. We don't have patience to wait 10 years. We got to go to the moon in 3 years. So cultural aspects for Stan's Has-Beens, we're giving it a B-, okay? B-. Potential to go up in culture. Potential, but at the same time, not a lot of movement. Not going to be a lot of movement. 20-cent monsters. 20-cent monsters, guys. Culture for 20-cent monsters. Is it going to go up? Is it going to go up? Well, if you've made it this far in the video, you know who I'm talking about when I'm talking about 20-cent monsters. Therefore, culture, got to give it an A. Because in the next 3 years, looking at those 20-cent monsters, I think there's a lot of potential to have culture be knocking on the door for this particular 20-cent monster book. You couple that with the A- popularity, A times A, that's like $1 million, right? Captain Copperage. Captain Copperage, also very important in culture. But one of the problems with Captain Copperage right now is that Captain Copperage is, well, the problem with Captain Copperage, how do I put this lightly? Captain Copperage may not be in the hands of a lot of character or a lot of filmmakers that are manufacturing culture right now. I'm going to put it like that. We'll just talk about that. So Captain Copperage, although they can drive up their culture, might have an issue due to the fact that the culture might actually go against them. So actually, I went with an A-. I'm going to give this one actually a B right here. A B. We'll give it a B+. Because culture, I think, can go up for these characters, but at the same time, it's going to be tough. It's going to be tough in the hands of certain people. Now, Superhero 2.0. Superhero 2.0. Culture, can it go up for these characters? I think it can. I think it can. I think that Superhero 2.0 is definitely in the hands of culture right now. And I would give it an A-. Not quite the clean A for 20-cent monsters, but I do think that Superhero 2.0 has a chance within culture to increase its popularity, thus increasing its demand, right? I'm going to give it an A-. I'm not really willing to give it an A right there due to the fact that, again, it's a longer road for Superhero 2.0. All right. We're almost here. I can't believe you guys are still watching. How long have we been recording here? All right. We're almost at the end here. Now we got to talk about the buyers. Okay, buyers. Here's the thing. With all these factors, we've had all 5 of these books. We bought it. It's been 3 years. Now we're looking to sell it. Now we're looking to sell the book. Okay? And here's a part to the equation that we don't often think about. But who are the buyers for our book going to be? How liquid is our $1,000 investment going to be out there in the market? So let's start here at the top. Tales of the Betty Yellow Cover. Now, like I mentioned, this is very low risk, okay? A lot of people like this. The history of the performance of this book has always been good, and the census is very low. But, like I've mentioned, there's only 2 people you can sell to, Golden Age Guru and Ryan over at Automatic Comics. Those are literally the only 2 people that are going to buy your book in 3 years' time. And here's the thing about those people. Those people have been doing this for a long, long time. And those people are willing to always wait for the right book at the best deal ever. So, on our 3-year timetable, I don't know if we have too much leverage selling our Tales of the Betty Yellow cover. There's no FOMO factor for Tales of the Betty Yellow cover. As we established in terms of popularity and culture, we got a C and a D grade. There's no FOMO. There's no person that is going to need to buy that book right then and there. Granted, there are certain Tales of the Betty Yellow covers that when they go up for sale, everybody wants them because they've been waiting all these years, but chances are on a $1,000 budget, you're not getting that Tales of the Betty Yellow cover. So, buyers here, you can only sell it to Ryan, and Ryan is not going to buy your book. He's too smart. He's too smart to buy your book for $1,500 after a 3-year time because Ryan feels like he can wait. He definitely feels like he can wait. So we're going to give this buyer, how do we want to rate this? Well, we're going to call him a Ryan. Ryan means that he's not going to get hit with FOMO, okay? Stan's Has-Beens. Now, Stan's Has-Beens, like we mentioned, there's a lot of popularity for Stan's Has-Beens, not too much culture, so we're not going to FOMO super hard in the next 3 years. But there's a lot of swaggle hosses out there that'll happily take your Stan's Has-Beens. They'll be happy to buy your Stan Has-Beens, so swag, he spends money, he'll buy your thing. So the swags out there will definitely always buy your book. So it's going to be fairly liquid. 20-cent monsters. Here's where it gets interesting. Now remember, we talked about culture. Culture going up. We talked about a 3-year plan. Not only are there going to be swags that want to buy your book, there's going to be Ryans that want to buy your book. Because this culture aspect is going to make the Ryans want to buy the book and then flip the book in the next 2-year waiting period, right? And on top of that, there's also going to be a lot of key collector Kevins. Key collector Kevins are going to FOMO into this book. So buyers, we got a lot of them right there. We got a lot of them. Captain Copper. Who's going to want to buy Captain Coppers? Now, the swaggle hosses of the world kind of like Captain Copper, but they kind of don't like Captain Copper as well. They might buy it, but only if it's a really good deal. So you're only going to get swags if they think it's under FMV. But the point of us investing $1,000 was that on a 3-year period, we were going to go up in value. Well, swaggle hoss is not going to buy your book unless he finds it 3 years later being sold exactly at $1,000. So he's not going to buy your book. But you might be able to get him. But who is going to buy your book? A lot of Kevins. Key collector Kevin is going to buy your book because they're going to get excited for the cultural aspect because they remember Captain Copper Age growing up. Superhero 2.0s, who's going to buy those? Again, a lot of Kevins. Key collector Kevins are always going to buy those books. Ryan from Automatic Comics will 100% not buy your Superhero 2.0 book, even with the popularity of your Disney Plus show. All right. If you guys are still with me here, we're finally ready to give our answers. We're taking a look at everything here. We got $1,000 to spend. Final answer. We're Key Collector Kevin. We want to go to the moon with our $1,000 investment. We're on a 3-year window here for what book we want to buy. We take a step back. We look at our grades. We think to ourselves, what book is going to yield us the best return on our money? Tales of the Betty Yellow cover. Very low risk. Very low risk. We think we're going to get some good value out of it. But in our 3-year time frame, being a C to D option here where we have to sell to Ryan over at Automatic Comic Books at a 1.0 grade, no less, who Ryan is not going to want your 1.0 grade. I think that our moonshot potential for Tales of the Betty Yellow cover, I don't think it's very good. So I would avoid Tales of the Betty Yellow cover. This would be my third pick. My third pick. Stan's Has-Beens. Stan's Has-Beens, 3 to 5.0 range, census count, 2 to 5K. Risk pretty low overall, right? Everybody loves Stan's Has-Beens. Popularity, as I said, everybody loves them right here. Cultural aspect, B-. Not too many people going to FOMO into our 3-year plan here. I think we're going to get a decent return on our money, but again, are we going to get our moonshot return? I don't know. 20-cent monsters, we're in the 3.0 to 7.5 range. There's quite a few on the census there. There's quite a few on the census, but remember, 1, 2, 3. We got 3 potential different buyers here. Risk, now there is some risk, but we're key collector Kevin. We want to go to the moon. We can take on a little bit of risk with this one. Popularity of these characters, we like the popularity. Cultural aspect, we like the cultural aspect. A- times A equals $1 million. Therefore, 20-cent monster is going to be my main pick. But let's finish this out here. Captain Copper Age right here, 9.2, 9.8. There's so many. There's so many on the census. Therefore, it's a lot of risk. I don't really like Sony Pictures. Popularity, yes, it's there. Yes, there's buyers. But again, too many on the census, too much supply overall. Even with the demand going up, I don't think it can offset that cost. So I'm going to give this one my fourth pick. Superhero 2.0. Excuse me. Yes, my fourth pick. Superhero 2.0, 9.6, 9.8. A lot of copies on the census. High risk. We're banking on the fact that maybe these guys can be as popular as all these characters that have come before. We can't predict the future. We don't know what's going to happen. What are the chances that they even get to this level? And if they get to this level, what are the chances that they actually capture the cultural zeitgeist? It's a lot of risk. Again, a lot of risk right there. So, this is going to be my last pick. On my $1,000 investment, I'm not going to go with Superhero 2.0. Yes, there is a high return potential if they do, in fact, become the flagship character, but I'm on a 3-year window. I'm not talking about a 10-year plan right here, so I'm not going to go with Superhero 2.0. So, to recap it, if I had $1,000 to invest and I didn't care what character we're talking about, I don't care about the characters, I don't care about who it is, I just want to go to the moon in 3 years' time, I'm going to spend my $1,000 on a 20-cent monster in a 3.0 to maybe a 7.5 grade, and I'm going to hope that the character continues to go up in culture, that is already popular, and I think I will get the best return in that 3-year time. But remember, on our 3-year window, I am selling that book because I want to take those gains. This is not a book that I think I'm going to hold for 10 years. If it is a 10-year plan, I would consider the Stan's Has-Beens or the Tales of the Betty Yellow cover. But we're talking about a 3-year plan here. We're trying to go to the moon, so it's the 20-cent monsters. If you don't like 20-cent monsters, my second pick would be Stan's Has-Beens because of the popularity and culture effect, where we have the potential for them to increase their demand, which increases the value of the book. I would go Tales of the Betty Yellow cover, but let's be honest, you don't know about Tales of the Betty Yellow cover. I don't know about Tales of the Betty Yellow cover. Who the hell knows about this book? We're going to get schooled if we make a play for $1,000. We don't know what we're buying, right? We don't know what we're buying here, so I would not go into this market unless you really, really understood it. Then lastly, my fourth pick would be Captain Copper Age. I think that there will be people like that. And the last one would be Superhero 2.0. So that is the end of my video. I hope that made sense. I've been talking for a long time. You guys probably aren't watching anymore. Again, at the end of the day, remember, buy what you like. There is no right answer. This is not financial advice. Look at this character right here. I would buy 3 9.8s right now for $1,000 instead of all of what I just talked about because I like this. So don't listen to me. This is not financial advice. But again, if I have $1,000 and I want to get the highest return on my investment, I would focus on this right here. Anyways, that's all for this video. Drop me a like, comment, subscribe if you're enjoying the content, and I'll see you in the next one.